every historical development, every political development occurs within a matrix of historical and economic forces coming together in a moment to create something that, if we view it in isolation, we don't really view in its entirety at all. Case in point, the immigration crisis, the crisis of the children in our borders and in these horrific detention centers. As I've said elsewhere on this program, by all means, cry for the children who are being abused by the Trump administration and by the brutal folks over at ICE. But don't leave it at that. Let's figure out, why did this happen? Why did we get to this point? How did we have a mechanism in place to treat these refugee children so horribly? And how, for that matter, did they come to be refugees in the first place? It's very important to look at all those things. You know, ICE's horrible treatment and abuse of children did not begin when Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III announced this new policy. And by that, it didn't begin with the Trump administration either. And by that, I'm not suggesting, well, they're all the same and, you know, Obama and Trump are no different. Of course they're different. And of course, Trump in many ways is uniquely horrific. But previous administrations are not in the clear on this either, and it's important to start by remembering that the mechanism for this type of abuse was put in place during the George W. Bush administration, and many of the abuses that took place were enabled by things that were done during the Obama administration, especially the outsourcing of child care. Now, for example, in 2014, the Shiloh Treatment Center in Manville, Texas, was found to have conducted all sorts of abusive treatments of children, including unaccompanied children, and also found to be very resistant to oversight from officers of the federal government, including U.S. Representative Pete Olson, who was a Republican, by the way, from Texas, who went down there and was shut out of Shiloh's main office. Now, in writing in the Nation, Marisa Franco and Carlos Garcia wrote an article entitled "The Deportation Meeting Obama Built for President Trump," and pointing out that Obama inherited a budding deportation apparatus when he became president, and that he expanded that through all sorts of programs to, for example, turn local police into quote-unquote force multipliers for the deportation law enforcement community, and to also double the number of people being prosecuted for re-entry, and expanding Bush's border court system, which is called Operation Streamline, which was designed to try up to 70 people per day on immigration questions. We could go on and on with this, but the point is also to look even further back, to look at the fact that United States policy, for example, in Honduras, was anti-democratic and was extremely economically repressive and really prioritizing the interests of financial power brokers over those of the people of Honduras, looking the other way at the slaughter of labor leaders and environmental leaders, including Berta Cáceres. We had her nephew on this program talking about that. So when refugees show up from Honduras, we should not only cry for the children who are abused when they reach our borders, but we should cry for what those children endured in their home country of Honduras and what they endured, including the suffering on the voyage here, or for that matter, Guatemala. We could talk about Guatemala a bit as well. There we had a head of government, Ephraim Rios Montt, and Montt has been convicted of genocide, but without the United States government's interference, Rios Montt would not have obtained or retained power. So perhaps we should be considered an unindicted co-conspirator, if you will, in that genocide that, of course, was genocide against the Mayan people of his country. And again, the military dictatorships that we have put in place in that region of the world have mistreated indigenous people and other populations as well. So perhaps we should also think about and weep for what Guatemalan children have endured in their country and on their voyage here. We could go on and on with all sorts of Central American countries, but I think the point is this. What we are seeing today is a tragedy decades in the making. If we want to fix it, we must acknowledge our moral responsibility to the people and to the children of Central America.